Your Words Destroyed My Planet, the stream series. The edited version. Originally streamed live at twitch.tv/dualitiesdownfall. More information in the description. Your Words Destroyed My Planet, Chapter 15. When you were a little kid, there was a playground in your school. It's probably still there now. Whoever built it or assembled it was clearly an idiot, because either the angle or the material wasn't right. You'd get on the thing and you'd slip down it enough so you couldn't get back up, but something about the angle made the descent down stupidly slow. If you tried to shuffle yourself forwards, it didn't work, and trying to roll onto your front to climb back up never helped either, because despite not being slippery enough, if you tried to climb up, your hands would skid out from under you. Once you were on that slide, you were stuck, slowly drifting down to the bottom for what felt like forever. Waking up is kind of like that. You're aware that you're waking up, and you can already feel how you feel like a metric ton of shit, but trying to go back to sleep isn't happening, so you're stuck, slowly waking up whether you want to or not. You open your eyes, blinking and grimacing at how crusty they feel. Your head is gently pillowed on something soft, though you're not sure what it is exactly. You're on your side with one knee out to the side and one arm out too, the kind of medical position that Marcy probably put you in. Beyond where you're laying on the shuttle floor, you can see Solux sat alone at one of the flight terminals. Solux taps at the keyboard for a few moments and then leans back in his chair to give the metal thing in his hand a thoughtful look. He pokes at part of it with a screwdriver and then frowns, tucking the screwdriver behind his ear and reaching for a different one. Solux's fangs dig into his lip a little as he tries to pry some part of whatever that is away. His palm husk buzzes on the desk, beeping at the same time. Solux's focus immediately shifts from the thing in his hands to the screen of his palm husk, and then to you. His eyes widen as he looks at you, and in a rush he puts whatever he was working on aside and rushes to your side, dropping to his knees to lean over and look at you. "Dave, can you hear me?" he asks, one hand brushing over your face and tilting you a little to look up at him. You try and do words, but it's hard, so you think you just kind of groan at him like a zombie or something. "Okay, I'll take awake at least," Solux mutters. He reaches around for his palm husk and silences the alarm on it, then drops it by your head. "Dave, I need to... where were they? Oh, right. Do you know your name?" he asks you, reading off of his palm husk. "If I didn't, you sort of gave it away." You groan and roll onto your back. "Hey, you can do words again!" "That's a fair point. I'm going to assume you being a smartass is a good sign medically. Do you know where you are?" Solux asks, glancing at his palm husk again. Now that you're on your back, you can see pretty plainly that you're in the shuttle. You and Solux seem to be the only two here, which is really concerning, to say the least. "In the shuttle? Where's the shuttle? Where's everyone else?" you ask. You're misunderstanding the relationship here. I ask you the questions and you give me answers. I've been medically deputized, or something. Marcy told me to tell you that you have to do what I say, Solux says with a scowl that's more adorable than it is threatening. You can feel the look Bro gives you without seeing a damn thing. You, might be a little concussed, maybe? Bold of her. You mumble and rub at your eyes. You know your tears were black, right? Are they always like that? Solux asks after a moment. You pull your hands away from your eyes and see that, yeah, the grit along your eyelids is kinda grayish. No, it's an aqueous thing. Weren't you asking questions? You remind him. Right, got your name. What about who you are? Solux asks. You rattle off basic information about yourself, your ID number, your job, your family, that you live with him and Hal. All the while, you're taking stock of yourself. You're exhausted, which is to be expected, and you're kind of bruised. Given the landing you think the shuttle had, you're not surprised at that either. Alright, I don't think you have a concussion. Marcy said that you've got to rest for a while before you do anything, though, and she told me to make you rest if you tried to run off and get your dumb ass into trouble. Her words, Solux says. Cool, great, fantastic, love that for me. Where's everyone else? What happened? You ask, now that you're seemingly fine, according to Dr. Captor here. Oh, you're asking what happened? I should be asking you that, but fine, I'll tell you. You stopped breathing at one point. Marcy says you breathed your own blood in from a nosebleed or something, and that's bad for you, obviously. She did CPR, Solix says. Explains why my chest hurts. You agree, and gingerly touch your ribs. She didn't do any real damage, though, which is nice, and it means you probably weren't out for long. Right. We had to jettison the fuel, which exploded almost immediately after, so that was a good call, and we came in for a really bad landing. Out of sheer fucking luck, we somehow crashed down about 500k away from Omega Base. I managed to work out where it was, despite all of our communications being shot. Me and Coopram have fixed what we can, but I've basically only got short range working here. We figured Omega would have a better shot at talking to the satellite and the ship, so everyone else has left to establish a base there, and I was left here to watch you and fix the shuttle comms in case we need to bounce a signal between here and Omega to get it to the station. So far, they're about 100k or so out, and aside from checking in with them, we've not talked to anyone. Solix explains. The fuel blew. You repeat. Yeah, it sent us into a tailspin, which really wasn't fun, but I don't think anyone passed out, and no one threw up either, so I'm counting that as a win at least. Solix shrugs. Actually, those must have been some serious G's that he went through, and you're kind of proud of him for taking that in stride. Still, there's a more horrifying idea at play here. The shuttle and the Atuan might think we exploded or died in the crash, you say in horror. Yeah, that's not great. I think it's why Polypa wanted to get a message back ASAP. Solix nods. You close your eyes for a moment, but no, there's no way of reaching Aradia from this far. Okay, gotta get to work. You grunt and force yourself upright. Your body protests at the movement, and Solix catches your shoulder, stopping you from falling back down with a thump. Whoa, hey, what happened to not doing dumb shit? Look, here, if you want to be upright. Solix reaches a hand out, and his bag across the room bursts into the air, only to come crashing down well out of reach for you. Fucking psionics are coming back, but they're still not right yet. Solix grumbles and pulls for the bag again to grab it. He pushes his bag behind your back, giving you something reasonably padded to lean on and still be mostly upright. Different gravity here, too. Even normally you'd have to deal with that, you point out. I didn't think about that, Solix admits. He picks his palm husk again and looks at the screen. You realize with a start that it's displaying your vitals. There's a monitor similar to the one you gave him stuck above your wrist. You get to see your pulse spike as the old panic of having medical shit done to you and observed about you without your consent fully hits you. You have to remind yourself that it's just basic information, and Marcy probably put it on you so that Solix could know what to do. You can take it off if you want. You're fine. Dave? Solix asks warily, glancing from your elevated pulse to you. It just hurts. You lie, gesturing to your ribs. She said you could have painkillers when you woke up. She set them out for me. Let me get them, Solix says sympathetically, and you feel pretty shitty for lying right to his face. You shift against Solix's bag a little and rub at your ribs. They do hurt, and it would be nice for them to not hurt. As you watch Solix sorting through some of his things, you wonder just what he saw, but you're not sure what to ask him or how. He's way too perceptive, and if he didn't see anything, then you hinting that there was something there to see is only going to make him more vulnerable to that. Here, Solix murmurs, kneeling back down next to you with some medication and a drink that you think he pilfered from a ration pack. You thank him quietly and take the medication he's giving you, checking the pills subtly to make sure that Solix did indeed pick the right thing up. I've got more questions, Solix says, and shifts to sit cross-legged. I'm pretty sure I'm not concussed. At this point, you're just getting into sleepover truth or dare questions territory, you say flatly. Funny. How about you start with what the fuck hit us, how the shuttle went see-through, and how shadowy arms started trying to grab people and actually got me? How about that? Solix asks sharply. Ah, shit, you mumble. Yeah, shit is right, what the fuck? Solix shouts. You wince at the volume and Solix sighs. Explain, he insists. You look him in the eyes and see that desperation to know, and as much as you wish you could keep the answers from him, you can't. Not now that he's seen. Letting him wander and hunger for answers is putting him in more danger. So you try to figure out where to start. You have psionics about death, right? Like Aradia? She sees him, you hear him? You begin. That's not entirely how it works. I hear people right before they die. She sees and hears dead people. If I'm near her, I can too. I don't know if my psionics are more flexible or if I need her as a signal boost or what, but yeah, I hear people about to die. Sometimes I see ghosts. I saw them at Vakari's funeral. Solix confirms. Right, okay, so ghosts are people after their bodies have died. They're mental energy that lingers for a while. You add. Yeah, I know that. Usually they go away on their own eventually. They've got to have a pretty strong tie to something to stick around long term. Either they haunt someone or something to do that. He nods. Exactly. They need a connection. Something they did, something they didn't do, a need to see something through, or just not being able to accept what happened. So, you know that. Just hold on to that idea for a minute. You tell him. Solix gives you a curious look, but waits for you to say more. There's this thing, right, called convergent evolution. You remember science classes. Evolutions that tend to work well crop up again and again. You want to have a smart, thinky species, they end up roughly our shape. We both hunted and dealt with predators in the same way, so our eyes are reasonably similar. We use tools so we get the same kind of hands. You explain. Yeah, things we both found useful are basically the same. The things that are different are pretty much because of our ancient biology and Alternia and Earth being different. Solix nods. Right, exactly. So, if there's something that's shared, it's probably because it's useful to both of us, right? You nod, pleased at how quickly he's following you. Either it was useful or it's just a quirk of another feature we needed. I've seen humans and trolls both bite their nails or claws. That's not useful, it's just that we're both smart, which means we get anxious. Solix shrugs. That pretty much checks out. Make two species intelligent, and both of them will stress about shit, or wake up in the middle of the night wondering if they remembered to lock the door. That's fair. Okay, hold that thought for a minute, too. I know you can hold two. You say, and Solix rolls his eyes at you. I want you to think about something for me. You hesitate about this for a moment, mentally feeling the area out. You think you're okay to do this. Whereabouts are we right now? You said Omega was 500k away or something, right? Which way? You ask. That way. Solix answers, looking around and pointing. Cool. You grew up on a ship that's absolutely full of people. You've got your own space and everything, but if you just vanished, someone would know within hours, if not less, and finding people that have gone missing on our ship is usually just a matter of tracking someone down to someone else's hive. People don't really go anywhere, they can't, you say. It's a ship. Are you getting to a point or an answer anytime soon, or what? Solix asks with a frown. Getting there. I want you to think about this planet. The only people on it came here in this shuttle. Aside from us, they're all the way off over there. If you climbed down that ladder, put your winter gear on, and walked the other way, away from the shuttle and Omega Base, you'd probably be walking somewhere where no person has ever walked before. If you walked and walked, you could look in every direction and not see a single other living person. If you got hurt out there or got lost, you'd almost certainly never be found again. You'd be all alone. You say quietly, pointing the opposite way that Solix did. He opens his mouth to say something, but you keep going. I want you to really think about that. You've never been alone before, not really. Even in a hive, I'm the next room over, and Hal's just across the main room. You're down the hall from people, but here, you'd be alone, you say. Solix looks deeply unnerved at the idea, which means he's got some sense about him, at least. You get it sometimes, even on the ship. You're by yourself, so you troll someone, or you play music so it feels like you're not. If I was with you out there, it'd be different. We're 500k away from anyone else on this whole planet right now, but we're cozy in here, just the two of us. We're safe, even though arguably we're not really, but it feels like we are, doesn't it? You ask. I guess, but this is a shelter. I'm not gonna die of exposure in here, and you know what you're doing, he points out. You know how quickly all that could fail, you counter. What's your point? Solix asks, clearly unsettled. Being out there, exposed and alone, frightens you. Even though here it's technically not that much safer, it feels different. You're afraid of it like you'd be afraid of a fire catching, like you're afraid when you're suddenly out of your depth in a pool and hadn't realized it. It's a basic fear, warning you of something that could kill you. I don't just mean that you're afraid of being caught in the snow or getting lost, because sure, there's that, but I bet traveling on your own to Omega Base feels different than going any other direction, right? You ask. Yeah, but so what? It's a survival instinct, Solix says with a frown. For sure. Humans have it too. We both evolved to be afraid of that because it's something that threatens us both. We both deal with it in the same way. When we have to travel through big patches of nothing like that, we do it in tight groups, we build shelters, and we sing songs and play music. It keeps it out, you explain. Like the song you sang? Solix asks, his voice cautious. Both of our species independently evolved sea shanties. Pretty weird if they don't serve a purpose, right? You shrug and regret it because, ow, ribs. Okay, I don't get your point, but I can see you're arguing that we both have this because there was a need for it that we both faced, but I don't get how. Music is something all intelligent species have, even smart animals sing. Solix argues. That's not the counter he thinks it is. You think, if you were a whale in Earth's deep oceans, or whatever the Alternian counterpart was, you'd sing to distant members of your own species too. Anything to know they were still out there and you weren't alone in the crushing, deep, dark waters. Whales sing for the same reason you do. Whenever there's any source of energy around, something finds a way to make it food. Your blood moves energy around your body with sugar and stuff, but plenty of parasites want in on that, so if you die and you still have a ghost, that takes energy, like we said. Ghosts exist off of energy they put into stuff, people, ideas, and they hang on to it for as long as they can. You go on. You're saying... Solix trails off. The idea is clearly coming together for him. You're saying there's something out there, whatever it is, that preyed on both of our species, that we have an instinctive fear of because it, attacks us when we're alone? You're saying that thing that hit the shuttle was that? He asks. You nod. Solix stares at you and then looks at parts of the shuttle's hull. You think that's probably where you started getting things leaking in. It takes him a bit to formulate what he wants to say next, but his voice is quiet when he does speak. So, this thing, what's it called? He asks. People have all sorts of names for it. I tend to go with what Mom called it, the Void. But there are other names. The Darkness, the End, the Great Devourer, the Wild Hunt, although that's kind of a... You know how you get backronyms where there's a word and people say it was an acronym for something? The explanation is invented after the word? It's kind of like that, because people don't call it that before they find out what it is, so I think it doesn't count, but whatever. The Void is easier for me. You tell him. You can all but hear the frustrated rants Mom used to go on about inconsistent naming and whether that represented different ideas or not. What is it? He asks you. Smart question. I don't really have an answer. As far as I've heard from what people have found, it seems to have always been around. Like this intangible thing that occasionally nabs people, either stealing their soul and leaving a body, or just outright vanishing things entirely. Whole ships and planes going missing with no wreckage back on Earth, that sort of thing. Only it existed on Alternia too, and Alternia raised trolls so everyone went to space, and they were all very connected, so it was probably harder for it to do its thing. The fact that the same thing was in both places means that either it was everywhere or physically being somewhere wasn't a thing it needed. Either way, it eventually changed somehow and decided to just, vor whole planets, you say. That's the most upsetting way you could have phrased that. Solix grimaces. Don't challenge me to one-up that. You warn him with a weak smile. So, it's the thing that took all the planets, including both of ours. Maybe it's alive and in a different phase of its life, like a molt or something, and now it's eating planets and coming after ships, he says thoughtfully. That's what we can figure. It's not really a solid thing, but it does move forward in a predictable way. Like, you know how atoms aren't really that nucleus and orbiting thingies around the outside, you say? We did physics together, I know you know this. Solix groans. Shh. You know that it's not like that. It's more like you have the middle and then a cloud of probability of where the other parts can be. Think of it like that, and as long as you stay out of the probability area, you're usually okay. You explain. I'm not even correcting you. What do you mean by usually, and what happens if you get in that area? Because I think the answer to that is probably the shit that just went down, he says, gesturing to the shuttle around you. That's part of it. It starts messing with people mentally. Some people are weaker to it than others. You're better just not finding out. You shrug, looking down at your boots instead of at him. What? What do you mean it's different for some people? Is that what happened to Vicari? Solix demands. Yeah. There's different aspects to it. A light and a dark. Light are future people and thoughts. Your ghosts that need to see something through before they can move on or wish they'd got to do something. Dark is the things you did, your old attachments. You can kind of stealth it, but if you keep everything equal and balanced so it doesn't see you so easily. Only Vicari was like a fucking road flare, and some idiot decided to stick him on the outside of the ship when we said he wasn't to go anywhere near space. We don't know if he baited it closer or if it just got him because it was already moving this way and we hadn't seen. Doesn't matter much to him now, I guess. You really wish you'd got to him in time. You know there was no way you could have, but still, it's an awful way to go. He shouldn't have been out there. You add again, softly. You rushed out there to help him, Dave. That wasn't your fault. Solix tells you, his voice gentle and understanding. Anyway, yeah, the void, space fuckery. That about cover it? You ask, looking off to the side. Not really. I guess there's no if at this point, but it's out there. Isn't there something we can do to stop it? You sang before, and you mentioned music. How does that help? Solix asks. Right, he didn't say about that. Oh, right, yeah. So it eats souls, ghosts, thoughts, emotions, and whatnot. It took ages eating our planets, because they're full of psychic meaning that we put in them, and yeah. Basically, it is also sort of haunted in a way, and with song, you can unite everyone within your ship, or whatever, if it's small, or you can try to call to something in the void itself to get it to change what it's doing, you say. So, why am I only learning this now? He asks. Again, that's a sensible question. Because if you know it's out there, you're gonna get a few reactions. Firstly, people are gonna be even more scared of it, and fear makes people dumb, and it feeds on that, so you're just giving it an advantage. Secondly, humans are still pretty big on religion, even if trolls aren't, and that's a lot of concrete answers about life after death that you really don't want to open up to everyone. We're already on the edge of extinction as is, so there's no way we're gonna do something that definitely start bloodshed. Third of all, most people, if you tell them there's a big, haunted, shadowy vor monster, Solix interrupts you to say, ew, at that point, then most people will be all, oh shit, get the fuck out of here, and then you'll get people who want to go look at it. You can call it closer by wanting it, remember? If you cut down the number of people who know, the less risk there is of that. Also, some people just don't notice it even when it's right in front of them, and the theory with that is it's some evolved mental protection or whatever. Your words are getting faster, and you're rambling now because you can feel yourself circling the drain of a conversation you really don't want to have. You just know it. I'm sure some people are stupid like that, but there's something to be said for studying it so we can escape it, right? Knowledge is power, Solix says. You don't flinch. You're trained better than that. Your breath catches in your chest and stays caught. Your gaze flickers beyond Solix to all the stacked seating behind him. The shadow of Bro lounges in one seat, his attention trained solely on you. Knowledge is power. How many times did you hear that in your house as a threat, a promise, a justification? Bro conveys perfectly well that he still thinks that. sneering at you for your reaction. Studying it doesn't lead anywhere good, you tell him stiffly. That's shit. If this is so life or death, then we need to know. You did something to protect people. People need to be able to replicate that, Solix starts. Other people do. I balance things. It's my job. Not that I can quit, so I guess it's more what I am. Every ship keeps people like me around for that reason, you explain. Solix pauses for a moment and narrows his eyes at you. So, what you did then isn't something that I could do. I couldn't sing at it and make it not kill us, he asks. Doing the whole music thing when you're with other people can help to insulate you, even if you're just a regular person. But no, the kind of shit I pulled you couldn't do, you answer him. Then these balance people are you, Aradia, Gamzee, and Father, then? He asks. Your eyes go wide with surprise, and Solix rolls his, like you're making a big deal out of nothing. Please, you've been shifty as fuck, and I keep seeing you four together. Sure, you work together, and you and AA are friends, but it's not like the two of you are typically up for fun times with Gamzee. Father's not connected to us at all, but he's always around. And I know they were supposed to be going on this mission with us, but suddenly those two are swapped out? I'm not stupid, he says flatly. No one else has ever guessed it, so I think you're smarter than you give yourself credit for, you point out. I already know I'm smart. This isn't news to me, Solix laughs, because your friend either has no self-esteem or all of it. No middle ground. And modest, too, you laugh. Whatever. I'm right, though, aren't I? He asks. Yeah, it's us four. Like I said, though, other ships have their own balancers. We're in communication a lot. There's something going on with the Void at the moment. It's behaving weirdly, so Gamzee and Father are minding the ship to be on the safe side. You tell him. Alright, next question then. What makes you four so special? Solix asks, staring at you intently. I'm guessing you mean why can we do the things we do and balance things and not who we are as people? I'm special, Solix. Don't be mean. You joke. You're the most special. If we get through this alive, I'll go hunt down a special boy sticker from the dentist that they give you when you're a kid and have behaved. Will that help? Tell me why you four can do all that. Solix insists. Shit, you think you'll hold him to that sticker thing? That sounds hysterically funny. Okay, so I'm dark aligned. I'm all about the past side of things, and because this is a duality thing, I don't really grasp the light side all that well. I can tell you what I know, but if you want to know what it's like, I'd suggest you ask Aradia, since she's the opposite of me. She and Faza are all futuristic, and me and Gamzee are on the other side of that. So, for me and him, you essentially have to make a connection to the Void, which is basically a connection with death. It's more than just seeing someone die, because otherwise hospitals would be full of people like us. The hows and whys of it aren't all that fun, but basically, we're haunted, and we've got a connection forged the right way that means we can use that ghost as, like, a go-between and channel it ourselves. I think it works similarly for future people, but, like, Aradia is haunted by the ghost of a descendant she has that doesn't exist yet. If you can figure that out, you let me know. You laugh a little at that last part. Bro's face shifts into a sneer. He's not really a fan of Damara. It's not like the ghosts can hurt each other in any way that matters, and the only people who can understand his words are people on your side. All the same, they're creative in their communication, and she has no tolerance for him at all. She's not wildly fond of you either, but Aradia said that she's just like that. Wait, you're haunted? Solix asks. You nod. But with Gamzee, then that would mean... Oh, Kurlos. Shit, that's rough. Solix says softly, dead ancestors being an unfortunate point of similarity there. It's not Kurlos, unfortunately. Although, maybe it's better that it's not, and the kid can rest in peace instead of being dragged into this. Gamzee's haunted by his ancestor, and you really don't want to ask him about that. It's not exactly fun for him. You explain. Oh, fuck. Poor Gamzee. I can't imagine having to see the person responsible for that all of the time. Solix says with quiet horror. You look past him at Bro, your expression flat. He just rolls his eyes like you're being dramatic here. I can relate, you say bluntly, and watch Solix's expression morph into one of even deeper horror. Wait, you're telling me that you're haunted by... He starts. Bro, you finish, before he can call Bro your father, because he's not. Dad's your father, and the only one you've ever had, thank you very much. Is he here, now? Solix asks, looking around like he could see him, when you know he won't. Yeah, he isn't always, and before you ask, it's not as bad as you think. You answer him quickly. Bro fades away, clearly not interested in what you're about to say. Of course he's not. He's not always around. I can make him leave when I want to. He can't hurt me, and the worst he can do is give me nightmares, but I get those anyway thanks to the shit I was put through as a kid. I'm the only one he can reasonably talk to besides Gamzee, who doesn't talk to him, and GHB, who couldn't care less about him. He has to do what I make him. I've got all the power. If anything, he's stuck in purgatory to make up for the shit he pulled. He doesn't want to go anywhere, so he works to keep me alive. Neither of us like it, but it is what it is. You shrug. Solix stares at you, and then, slowly and carefully, crawls closer and hugs you. Oh, I'm fine, you tell him, kind of thrown by the gesture. It's not fine. Shit, this is why I'm saying that we should study this stuff so someone else could do this and you could get an exorcism or something. You shouldn't have to do that. Solix insists, pulling away enough to look at you. It doesn't really work like that. You shrug. Not much else to say on it. But people have to have studied this, right? Could we push the void back? Stop running and keep it away from a planet or whatever? Can we kill it? Reason with it? What can people like you do? It can't be a secret forever, right? I'm sure people could science the shit out of this. Solix says, making your blood run so cold it could be Gamzee's. They shouldn't, you say. They should. Lives could be saved. We could maybe even stop running, or... Solix starts. Okay, so I'll tell you. My parents were scientists. They studied this. Mom still does, last I heard. They looked in all sorts of stuff. Why does exposure to some stuff make people able to balance and not others? Why does the void manifest in certain ways? Is that the same across everyone who sees it? You said you saw arms, right? You ask. Well, yeah, but... Solix answers, and you interrupt when you've got the part of his answer you cared about. Exactly. So you get data from people who have seen it and compile all of that, but then the problem is, how do you know that it's not something they're talking about and priming each other to say? Also, is it a visual thing or a psychic thing? It doesn't appear on video. Video with it either doesn't show anything wrong or the video just glitches. So is it a visual phenomena or a mental one that you just perceive as visual? In order to test that, you'd need someone who hasn't heard about what they're supposed to see. Better yet, if you can get someone who can't see and just find out if it appears psychically and how. You go on in a rush. Wait, Solix starts, his eyes going wide. And you're a very important scientist with a very important job. Sacrifices must be made, but it's hard to get subjects for something like that. But hey, if you have a kid, you're the person who signs consent forms. You can cram your 6-year-old kid into a pod so small he can't even walk around in it. And then when he won't stop doing that, you can strap him down and then push that pod all the way out to the edge of that zone where people fucking die and set him so all he can see is endless empty space and see what that does. You can do that over and over. You can try running him through intelligence tests while you do it so you can see if it affects cognitive function on your own kid. So you put the kid and his biological father, who's also your fucking research assistant, into another pod and get so close that the void starts possessing that research assistant, and your son has to assemble his ghost together over the years like a fucking jigsaw puzzle, as the thing that's biting his soul into chunks makes him worse and worse and torments all of your other children too. You snarl, venom rising out of you through the septic wound that is your own childhood. I'm sorry, Solix says, leaning forward in a rush to hug you. Sorry doesn't... You stumble to a stop as his fingers stroke across your cheekbone, a gesture still so alien to you that it actually throws you long enough for him to talk. Laika. That's why you're Laika, isn't it? I read about her, and you didn't deserve that, he says into the side of your neck, and the words make you freeze. Solix's hand moves to the edge of your face and just touches your hair. No one knows, do they? That's why you lie so much. Solix mumbles against your skin. Disjointedly, you realize you can feel one of his doubled canines near one of your arteries, although you're not scared of him. If anything, what he said scared you more. Rose knows some. I can't tell people about the void fuckery. It'd put them in danger. She thinks it was an isolation experiment. Dirk and Hal were mad at me then. Bro wouldn't even call them that, and I was his only son going to work with him. I couldn't... Dad knows some, about as much as Rose. Jade knows some bad science shit went down, that's all. You answer him numbly. Solix pulls back, trying to keep concern on his face, but you can see the anger there, too. You suppose he's angry for you. You don't tell anyone? But someone has to know. They took you away from your parents, he insists. Mom's work was way too valuable. They weren't going to space a mind like hers. They took us away and killed Bro instead. They kept her under house arrest for like 2 weeks before she broke out. You shrug. Who else knows? You have to have told people, not just me, he asks, clearly desperate for the answer to be yes. Gamzee knows about all of it because I know about his stuff. Aradia knows most of it, Fazar a little less. The captain knows everything, but she knew a lot of it before I even got on the ship. Sam did the job before me, so he knew all of it, kind of mentored me in more than just tattooing, which, as a side note, I need to tattoo you soon, I guess, just so people know that you've seen void shit. You tell him blandly. But the psych tests we have to go through, don't they... They must know, right? I had to go to therapy after Matuna, and this is so much worse. Surely you had to talk to someone about all of this. A professional, I mean. Solix insists. You shrug a little and scratch at the back of your neck where it's prickling slightly with anxiety/emotional honesty sweats. That's definitely a normal thing to have. Yeah, a little. I mean, when it comes to stuff about Mom and Bro being shitty parents, that's something I talk about with them and the whole move here. We have psychologists who know about this stuff because they've seen it too, but Saul, my job is to keep other people from being eaten by the void. It's not a job I can quit. They'll do whatever they have to if it keeps me functioning, and honestly, I could walk in there and declare that I'm the reincarnation of Jesus on roller skates set to save the universe with third-wave disco, and they'd be like, yep, okay, clear to go on the mission. Safe travels, Mr. Christ. It doesn't matter, you say, and you can hear the apathy in your tone. Solix's expression is of pure concern and pity. You don't mean the troll kind, which, as far as you're concerned, is basically synonymous with love, albeit in several fun and different flavors. Nah, to you, the word pity has a patronizing vibe to it. Look at the poor, weak, traumatized blind kid. Oh, he's had it so tough. How sad. You better not be pitying me, you warn him. Solix winces. I'm not getting pale for you. You did sort of pap me back. Solix's hand over your mouth kind of stops that sentence. No, shut up. You were freaking out and it was a reflex. That's not what's happening. Look, it's just that I care about you, and I know you keep stuff to yourself a lot, but it's really fucked up to think about how long you've been doing that and why, and it makes me so mad to think about because you didn't deserve that shit, and... Solix looks away for a moment. When he speaks again, his voice is a little quieter. I know it's not comparable, but after Matuna, people acted like I was really fragile for ages. I probably was, but I hated that. It just made it worse. Like I was delicate and weak. It's not even like people say that you come through things like that stronger for it, because maybe you do or don't, but you shouldn't have had to be strong in the first place, especially not at that age. But I want to be clear that I don't think you're weak or breakable for this. I'm not saying we should sit down and talk about your trauma, because that sounds like it'd suck for you, but you at least don't have to pretend it didn't happen now. And if you want to look into that exorcism, I'm game for holding candles or whatever it takes. He adds that last part with a glare around the empty room. He doesn't know Bro has gone. You move his hand off of your mouth and give him a slightly weak smile. I appreciate that, man. Real friends fight ghosts together. That's how you know they're real friends. You nod. Don't tell June. She'll make me watch those stupid movies again. Solix mutters. Man, when I first moved in with her, it was like old Earth stuff was something we were both into, and we were both into movies, and you want to get to know each other, so you do movies. I could probably quote that movie end to end in English, and I don't speak English. You groan, rubbing your face with your hands. Obviously, June had it subtitled into Alternian for you both, so it was neither here nor there, but you saw it so many times. Sure, you got a new sister and a new friend, but at what cost? At what cost? Solix doesn't seem to be thrown into as much existential Ghostbusters angst as you, and is now just sat on the floor in front of you, with one arm loosely draped over your raised knee. His expression is solemn and contemplative, and you wonder what he's thinking about. Your fucked up past, the void chasing you. You good? You ask him quietly, giving his arm a little poke. I guess I'm not allowed to tell anyone about this, which is why AA never told me. Solix says quietly. You can't tell people. I'm serious about it. As is the whole government. You'll get disappeared away and spend the rest of your life in prison if you do. They do not fuck around. There's been people who've tried to talk about it before, but the whole thing with ships is that it's really easy to isolate people and stop news spreading. Besides, you could get people killed. Aradia knew your psionics made you more likely to see all of this. She never wanted to put you in danger. Her going out of her way to give you the music was because she wanted to help. She cares, really. You assure him. I get that. I get why she couldn't say. I'm amazed she could keep a secret that big for that long without us breaking up. I know we did break up, but it feels unrelated, he says, and you agree that it was unrelated. People compartmentalize. It does tend to cause a lot of breakups, though, especially when you can't be honest about why you're stressed. Sailors usually date other sailors. Not always, though. Jake knows about all this stuff, and he's married to Dirk, who doesn't know shit. You tell him. In all honesty, the pool of sailors who have exes and relationship drama together is absurd. Cargo would have a field day with all of the connections. And you're with Jade, Solix says, watching you. Yeah, she doesn't know. You confirm. Solix looks like he wants to say something, but whatever it is, he opts to keep that particular thought to himself. Maybe he's wondering if her science connection gives you the creeps. It doesn't, because she's all into rocks, and you're not a rock. You're very unlikely to be a subject of any of her research, so it's cool. So, what now? Solix asks eventually. IDK, man. I only just woke up. That is the long and short of all the spooky stuff. Weren't you trying to fix something when I woke up from flirting with being dead? You ask. Don't say that. You're lucky I could keep calm because I didn't hear you die, so I knew Mars 2 was going to get you back. But yeah, I was fixing the shuttle's external communication hub, Solix says and gets to his feet. He picks something off of the console he was sat at and shows it to you. Melty. You laugh, and then regret it because, ow, ribs. Yeah, until I've got my very fine control back on my psionics, I can't risk prying the insides open to see if any of it is fixable. Beyond that, I'm just using the square wave bots to bounce signal around and waiting for Cuprum to contact me. Solix says glumly. Oh, if you go in the medical kit, there's little rehydration powder things in there. I have it on good authority that it makes the suppressants wear off a little faster. I also have it on good authority that they taste like ass, so make your own choices there, I guess. You inform him. Literally tastes like ass or metaphorically? Solix asks as he sits down at the console again. I wouldn't know, but I'm also not asking Nastasha because I don't want to know what him and Kunil get up to when they're alone. I just gross myself out by thinking about it. You say with a grimace. That's so much no right there. So much. I'm gonna chance it anyway, Solix says and heads over to the nearby and open medkit that you hadn't spotted. He was probably ready to use the things in there on you. He had painkillers out already, but you weren't watching where he got them at the time. Solix was probably really worried about you. It's not like there's a happy, fun way to be introduced to this shit, but everything really went sideways back there. He was probably terrified. Hey, I'm sorry things got so bad back there. It's normally not that bad. I know I got us here in one piece with flight helping, but I swear I didn't think it was going to be this bad. I wasn't putting you in this much danger on purpose, you tell him, desperately needing him to understand that you mean it. Solix looks up from the medical kit, his hand halfway out of it with one of those rehydration sachets secured. He gives you a sort of curious look and straightens up, one hand on the back of the chair that the medkit is on. I figured as much. You might have to lie to people a lot, but you promised that you weren't exposing me to something that dangerous, or you didn't think you were. It seemed like a situation that went bad unexpectedly. I wasn't blaming you. I'm pretty certain we'd all be dead if you hadn't done what you did, Solix says simply. He never even thought to doubt you. Oh, good, you say, so quietly that you wonder if he heard you. Out of interest, what was the plan? What went wrong? Solix asks, returning to his own seat and reading the back of the packet of rehydration mix. Normally when things are all fine and it's a small mission, we go half and half. That's when we're all in one place and we just take the one shuttle. If it's a double and it's all fine, then you get one pair in each and the ship would be without us. Normally they don't go all that far, and because they're thinking about us, it's reasonable protection. We're never usually this close to an unreality field. You explain. Unreality field? Solix asks, glancing up at the words. Like I said before, that cloud of probability thing, it means that the void can appear in bits and outright take people like Vicari. Sometimes it's a total one-off and there's nothing anyone can do, which is what we thought happened. Only it's been happening to other ships nearby, so it means it's actual unreality. It's... God, how do I explain it? Basically physics and reality gets a little gummy and weird. You can glitch through stuff or have things just vanish. Systems fail for no obvious reasons. You start. The lock on Vicari's helmet, Solix says quickly. Exactly. The void was talking to him, dragging all that future wanderlust out of him, and things inexplicably move out of the way to allow that to happen. People hear and see things that aren't real. You get hauntings go nuts. When you get close enough, you get mass delusion. Anyone like you who's seen it is more prone to hearing and seeing it. It's a bad, bad time. We couldn't leave the ship unprotected like that, but if we didn't come here at all, the Carapacians are doomed. You tell him. So you did both. I already like that as a plan. Go on. Solix says, and tears the little packet open. I thought you would. When it comes to balancing, I can be on one end of the ship, and Fawzer can be way on the other, and we can still even things out together, so theoretically we could fly shuttles really close and do the same. You elaborate. I already know the spoilers said it didn't work, but can I guess that it's because you weren't on the same ship and there was a gap between us? I get what you mean by the feeling that you mentioned. Cooper was talking about how when we got to the space station we might need to go outside and fix things, and the idea of fucking up a tether to the station and just drifting off is... It makes me feel sick thinking about it. Like how people say they're scared of heights. So the gap between us and them outside a ship is different than a bigger gap on the Atuan, right? Solix says, with a little shudder. Hey, you're natural at this. Yeah, we knew it was a risk, but we thought we could do it. It was going fine until the void started pulling all futury on Aradia. Whatever it's been doing has been affecting the light balancers on all the ships, and she started going all Vicari. The problem is, in order to fix that, I had to drown that out in dark vibes, which worked. I got her to balance. Unfortunately, it left us way out of whack. You say with a wince. It was a real mission failed successfully sort of moment. Is that how we managed to get to Somnos way faster than we should have? Solix asks. He really is good at this. I flash-stepped the whole ship to get us away. I've not done it to a whole ship before, hence the whole profuse bleeding thing. You shrug. You did what? Solix asks, raising an eyebrow. You sigh and carefully get up, mindful of your sore ribs. Okay, I'll show you. We're fine down here now, so there's no problem. It's sort of my party trick, I guess, except I don't ever actually show it off. I'm the only one who can do it, although Gamzee can do something similar, and he's getting mad that I've started being able to do that too, but whatever. You say. You said so much and conveyed absolutely nothing, he tells you flatly. You roll your eyes, maybe a little theatrically. Maybe you sort of want him to be impressed. Normally you hate showing the things you can do because it's a little too much like being studied. You can handle comparing notes with Gamzee when you're training together, but you don't show off. But for some reason, you want to now. You look over to the other side of the shuttle, up the top by the highest seats. Glancing back, you can see Solix's expectant face, like he wants you to explain now instead of being weird. You'll show him instead. You lift one foot off of the floor and slip out of reality for just a bit, enough to set your foot down right away across the other side of the shuttle. Solix jumps at your sudden disappearance, looking around until he spots you with wide-eyed shock all over his face. How? You... What? Solix gasps. You grin and flash step again to just behind him, making him jump so bad he ends up crushing the rehydration packet in his hand, sending some of it over his hand and wrist. Like I said, flash step, you say smoothly, grinning up at him. You can feel Bro looking at you. You can see him out of the corner of your eye. He came back because he could feel you fucking around like this, and probably presumed you were doing it for some void-related reason, and not because you were showing off. Bro is unimpressed, and though you can choose to not understand the things he says, it's harder to do when you've noticed him. You're not surprised that he conveys the idea that Solix already wants to suck your dick, so you don't need to impress him. Of course, you ignore him. Bro says that about any guy you're even vaguely close to who doesn't share DNA with you. Just because he might have been right on Karkat doesn't mean he is with everyone else. He's your friend, and you're just having a little fun for once. That is... Humans don't have psionics, and even trolls can't teleport. We can psionically move fast, but not at that short range. How... Holy shit, that's incredible, Solix says in awe. You grin. Bro fakes vomiting and vanishes again. This'll probably earn you some unpleasant nightmares, but you're used to him. Whatever. This is worth it. I try. It's not teleporting, though. It's more lying to reality and making my own unreality field so I could just hop about. It's pretty short range, but it's useful, you say with a smile. Wow, I'd say I'm jealous, but I'm not. I'll pass on going through what you had to in order to get that, but it's nice that you've got some cool perks, at least. It's very anime. Solix laughs. I know, right? I'm devastated that I can't show my siblings, because they're all giant goddamn nerds. They love that shit. You agree. Your older siblings especially would go nuts for it, for sure. Hal would for sure. Solix agrees. You watch as he absent-mindedly licks some of the rehydration mix off of his hand and then immediately pulls a disgusted face. Ugh, that's... He grimaces. Like ass? You guess. No, it's like blackcurrants turn evil and beat the shit out of my taste buds in a dark bar. Ah, I think I'm just gonna swallow this whole thing at once and get it over with. It says mix it with a drink, but I'm not subjecting myself to this longer than I have to. He grumbles. Would it help if I chanted shots over and over again as you did it? You ask him. Yes, and now you have to. Go on, Solix says, like he thinks you're gonna back down from that. You're not going to back down, of course, so as if you were at a bar instead of an otherwise empty shuttle. Accompanied by your verbal encouragement, Solix downs the packet in one, nearly chokes on it, because that's what happens when you do a shot of rehydration powder. So, naturally, when he starts drinking water to wash it down, you switch to shouting, chug, 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 because you're the very best friend anyone could ever have, of course. That's the dumbest thing I've done in a while, Solix rasps after a few moments, then coughs and has another swig of water. That's what Jake said. You snort. Solix pauses and then squints at you. Did you just insult Dirk when he's not even here? Solix asks incredulously. I could have had a better audience for that, you're right. But when the chance to insult your brother appears, you just have to go with it. I'm sure he knows somehow, psychically, through Big Brother magic. Like, he'll be at work, sit up and narrow his eyes, knowing that he's been burned, but not how, why, or by whom. You explain. This is just the wonder of being a younger brother. He'll probably blame Hal, Solix says after a moment. Perhaps. That's also super funny to me, though, so I went either way, you say with a grin. Solix makes a thoughtful noise and rubs at the slightly purple mark on his hand now. You don't think he wants to try licking it again. Actually, you're lucky he took his gloves off at some point, even if both of you are still in your spacesuits besides. I'm gonna take this off, actually. We're on Somnos now, so I don't need it, you say, and start to undo your spacesuit. Yeah, I worked out how to get my gloves off, but seeing as I need this suit in one piece to potentially save my life, I was a little hesitant to try to get out of it, seeing as you never showed me how. I'm also terrified of Porum to a healthy degree, Solix says. As are we all. Let me help you out, you offer. You show Solix the complicated way the suit undoes, and he remarks that he's pretty surprised that Marcy was able to do CPR on you with your suit still on. Of course, that's all part of the design. She did suggest having defibrillators put in there, but given how rarely they're used versus the chance to set things on fire by accident or taser an unsuspecting wearer, they decided not to do that. You get your suits safely stowed away and figure that you'll go take a look around the shuttle. As you'd expect, all but one of the vehicles are gone, along with a fair amount of the supplies, but that's fine. You're not planning on hanging out here for all that long. Actually, with the food that's left on the shuttle, you could, if you wanted to, survive for months without leaving. There's extras set there in case you want to make it out of orbit, but something fails and you have to wait for rescue. Although the people who plan your missions cut down on what they can, they're always aware that failing to prepare for things going wrong all but assures that it'll happen. What can you say? Dead sailors are bad PR, especially when your species are so threatened. Every life lost is a genetic variation gone. Although you're reasonably sure that your genes are pretty shitty, it's not really your say. It also assumes that you intend to reproduce, which, well... Anyway, you should go check out what it's like outside. You suit yourself up with your outdoor gear really quickly and pop the hatch open to the outside. No, it just got warm again! Solix shouts from higher up. You'll be fine. I'm just gonna go take a look around, you shout back. You kind of want to jump down and ignore the ladder because it's not that far, but you're well aware that the snow is basically solid down there and the gravity is higher than you're used to. Dumb stunts are a good way to get injured, and you're pretty sure you're gonna have to drive a snowmobile 500k in the reasonably near future, and that'll suck on a sprained ankle. Like a sensible person, you climb down the ladder and have a look around. The crew have anchored the shuttle in place with guide ropes, so you're pretty safe from weather. Not to mention you're reasonably close to a rock face, so pretty sheltered too. The light in the sky is starting to dim, and as you stare up at the sky, you're sure that it's getting darker. Yeah, you're not making that drive at night. Even if you can see just fine at night, you're not going to chance the nocturnal wildlife. Besides which, the temperature is going to drop even further, and Solix might not take that well for hours and hours on end without a chance to heat up. Also, without a radio around, there's a chance the darkness might get a little unreal. Better to just wait until morning. Besides which, you need to wait and see if Solix and Cuprum can fix the communication systems, so everyone knows you didn't all blow up and die. You stomp your way through the snow and get a better look at the shuttle. It's not in bad shape, but given that the fuel is all gone, it's certainly not going anywhere. You were supposed to hook the space elevator up on Alpha Base. Obviously, you still have to in order to get all the stuff that you're going to mine out back into space. On a non-technical description, you basically are just whipping that stuff into space towards the Atuans so that they pick it up. You can't really do the same with people if you want them alive at the end. If the other shuttle arrives just fine, then maybe you can strip all the extra stuff out of there, shoot that into space, and weld the seats and whatnot from this one in its place. How hard can it be? It's only rocket surgery. You grin at your own joke until the exposure to the cold air makes your teeth hurt. You could go back inside and tell Solix your very good joke, but it's never as funny if you have to retell it or explain it. The tragedy in the comedy is that no one is here to hear your joke. Looking back at the ship, you think about the fuel again. Would it be possible to just make new fuel? This planet has plant and animal life. It's not unthinkable that it could have the right stuff to make rocket fuel. But how long would it take to synthesize that stuff? It's, what, hydrazine, right? Damn it, you took a test about this. What's the chemical formula for hydrazine? You have a vivid memory of studying for that part of your sailor's test with Jade, and mostly just being more interested in hanging out with her and Beck. You passed the test with flying colors and almost immediately forgot all the chemistry part of it. Instead, you remember how nice it was snuggled up with your girlfriend and your dog as you studied. That was when she was using that strawberry shampoo, wasn't it? Good job, Dave. Way to retain the useful information. Heaving a sigh, you go back to the ladder and let yourself back inside the shuttle. You change back out of your outerwear and then climb up yet more ladder to get back to the main part of the shuttle. Tentatively, you rub at your sore chest. It's definitely gonna bruise, but it's still better than being dead. You let the cold in. Solix pouts as you pass him. It's okay, heat rises, you'll be fine, you assure him, and walk over to your locker. Well, hey, that sure is your blood on the floor all dried on and everything. You should probably clean that later. For now, though, you open up your locker and rummage about in your bag to find your tablet. When you're done, you have a quick check on your instruments and see that they are delightfully not broken despite the landing, so it's good news there. You go back to Solix and take the seat on the side of the console that's next to him, but not occupied by an open medkit. "What are you doing?" Solix asks as he minutely moves a screw around psionically, probably testing to see how much control he has back yet. "I just need to check something to do with the shuttle." You answer him, and open up your tablet's search feature. You're away from Atuan's internet, but your tablet stores an eye-watering amount of information, as does the local drive of the shuttle. It's mostly physics simulators, designs for things you might have to make, chemistry and biology data. Basically, a glut of information to help you slap together a plan in a sticky situation, and all the simulators to help you check if something will work without having to do it for real and have physics bitch slap you and break your stuff. So, hydrazine. Inorganic compound, chemical formula N2H4. You groan as you read it. The moment you see it, you know that you knew it. All right, enough flashcard science. How do you make that sucker? You click through a few things and end up vacantly staring at a page about how you make hydrazine with bleach. That's doable. You do not have that much bleach. Can you make bleach? Hydrogen peroxide is just H2O2. You have hydrogen and oxygen. You've got loads of snow about, and that's water, which is H2O, just more oxygen. It's just fancy water, or spicy water, if you will. How hard can it be to just slap another O in that formula? You look like you're about to melt your think sponge, Solix observes. Remember how I said that to do my job you have to be sort of okay at most of the jobs? I'm at a level where basically anyone here, if you said, "This is what I need you to do," I could probably do it. I know enough to get the instructions and to more or less assess the problem myself and do it. You ask. "Yeah?" Solix says with a dubious look at you, probably not unwarranted. "Obviously, I need to run things by Polypa and the science nerds on the ship if we can reach them. We don't have any fuel, and that's bad, so I'm just working out how to make more. The thing is that, generally speaking, if I think to myself, yeah, how hard can that be? More than a couple of times, I'm either thinking about something that's completely easy or something I dangerously do not understand." You explain. "Seeing as rocket fuel is super good at exploding, that's not great," Solix says slowly. "Yeah, I'm either overthinking or underthinking. Looking at it, I should be able to make it as long as I can find all the raw materials, get the process right, and store the rocket fuel right afterwards. If I can do that, then it should be fine," you say, with another doubtful glance at your tablet. "Two things. Yes, I know, but shut up," Solix gets to you before you can even comment. "Firstly, you just listed all of the steps there, which is not reassuring. Secondly, how much are the science nerds going to like you making rocket fuel yourself without any quality checks? This sounds like you're making it like someone brewing illegal moonshine in a tub in their wardrobe." "You're saying I shouldn't label it Dave's good old rocket fuel? It'll put hairs on your chest? You don't think they'll go for that?" You ask innocently. "Something tells me no, but I really want to ask Nepeta if she still has that sticker maker from when we were kids so I can make that." Solix laughs. Mentally, you start designing terrible stickers that Nepeta could make for you, but you're taken out of your designing reverie when Solix carefully pries the machine part open with his psionics. He makes a noise of interest and floats a teeny tiny screwdriver over. He goes about fixing the communication part, and you just watch him. It was always nice watching your older siblings tinker with things, either in code or physically. You know the basics of how to do both, but the same urge to build and break never really passed to you and Rose. All the same, you always really enjoyed watching them work. June and Jane were all about the sciences. You and Rose were all about the more traditional arts. Rose is into writing, you're into drawing, which became tattooing, and both of you lean heavily on music. Of your brothers and sisters, you and Rose are technically the arty ones, but even saying that, there was always something in the way the three of them would design and make robots, put their code together, and assemble everything that always seemed like art to you. It's the same with Solix now. He has all the focus of someone doing delicate line art. You're pretty sure you don't look like that when you fix things. You think you're mostly just trying to glare it into submission while remembering whatever instructions you've been given. I think Solok says as he clicks the unit closed again. That should work. I can't promise it'll hold out into orbit as it is now, maybe if I scavenge some parts for a new casing, but it should work fine for where we are now. Hey, that sounds great. Good job, you tell him. Well, now I just have to go outside again and stick this on the outside of the ship, Solok says, and doesn't move. It's getting dark. It's only getting colder, you warn him. Solok sighs deeply and gets to his feet, trudging to the ladder. Next time we go on a mission somewhere, can it at least be without the extreme temperatures? I just want a normal room temperature planet, Solok says. I've been to those. Went to one the trip before this. It was very hospitable to life, you say with a smile. That was the one with all the aggressive megafauna, wasn't it? Aradia showed me the pictures, Solok says suspiciously, and you just grin in reply. He rolls his eyes at you and heads down out of the room. If Solix is getting changed, you really should tattoo him soon. Maybe you can get dinner in you both first, because you're feeling pretty hungry by now. In the spirit of saving time, you go back to your bag and dig out your travel kit for occasions just like this one, and when you found it, you sit back at the flight console. Curiously, you tap about through the screens available to you, happy to see it when a pop-up announces that it's connected to the communication system again. A few minutes later, you hear the shuttle door slam shut again, right as the communication channel opens up. It's from the space station! Feel it to Shuttle 2! Shuttle 2, do you read me? Nepetta's voice comes through, a little fuzzy, but totally understandable. Feel it, this is Laika, I read you! You say back immediately. There's a short delay between each message, but it's not all that bad. Certainly better than if you were relaying a message to the Atuan through the space station. Laika, what's your status? We lost you, and we saw your fuel detonate. We picked up the rest of the shuttle going through the atmosphere, but we couldn't determine more. Nepetta asks. Solix floats up into the room, and you hold a finger to your lips briefly so he stays quiet. We had some problems. I can't say exactly what myself, because I was a little injured in the crash. It's nothing major, but I lost consciousness, so I don't know precisely what the problem was. I know we had to jettison the fuel to make a safe emergency landing, but the angle of entry wasn't ideal, and it knocked our communications out. Duelist has just fixed it for us. Everyone else was fine when we landed, and Ryson took everyone aside from myself and Duelist to Omega Base since it's only 500k away. I'm fine now, no lasting injuries, and communications are back. All things considered, we're good here, you tell her. That's so good to hear, Laika. Chasmophyte is very relieved to hear you're safe and sound, as are we all. We'll relay your status to the Atuan. From up here, we can see that you've got a storm front moving in. It'll probably be gone by morning, but I'd advise you to stay where you are for now, and for Ryson to seek shelter if she and the others haven't already made it to Omega. Nepetta says, with warmth in her voice, and you can feel her relief from all the way up there. That's great. On the subject of staying where we are, I mentioned we're now entirely out of fuel. I've been looking up how to make hydrazine, and it should be doable. Either that, or we're gonna have to drastically rearrange the shuttles to get back. You tell her. We'll have to decide on a course of action. I will let you know when we need you to do anything, Nepetta says. There's a small pause, and then she goes on. To be clear, Laika, do not attempt to make any kind of rocket fuel without explicit authorization, Nepetta says firmly. I understand, Phelan. May I offer my second solution of a really big catapult? You ask with a laugh. I'll pass your suggestion on to aerospace engineering, Laika. Contact us if you have any problems or if the situation changes. Ryson should be able to relay through you to us when she arrives at Omega, but if you hear from her first, do ask her to contact us, Nepetta says, her tone shifting more serious at the end. Copy that. Laika out, you say with a nod, and the transmission cuts out. Okay, I gotta call Polypa real quick, you say as you tap away on the console to bring up what you need. Ah, there. The shuttle can pick up lots of things now. Namely, the communication tags of the shuttle's crew and the dormant Omega base. Hell, you can even pick out Alpha's signal. You open a channel to Polypa and keep it just to her. She can choose what she wants to pass on to the others. Ryson, this is Laika. Do you read me? You ask. Laika, I read you loud and clear. It's good to hear your voice. What's your status? She asks. Duelist repaired the comms, as you can guess. We got a call just now from the space station. Shuttle 1 made it there just fine, and they're relieved to hear we're good. They're relaying that back to the ship, and they're aware that we're now short of all our fuel. Felid also advised that there's a storm moving in, and we should stay put, and you should either make it to Omega if you're close or seek shelter, but it looks to me like you're pretty close, you explain. We'll be there very soon. I second Felid's advice. Stay put, and we'll contact you at 0600 to advise on your next move, Polypa tells you. Okay, I can't see any other problems. I actually think that you will be able to reach the station just fine from Omega. I can see that their comms are set up, so let me know what you two decide. I already told Felid I've been working out how to make new rocket fuel, you tell her brightly. Laika, don't try to synthesize your own rocket fuel without supervision. Duelist does not count as supervision, Polypa says in an amused tone of voice. If you make her laugh, she has to know you're okay. That's how it works. I can't believe you're crushing my dreams of being a real sign-terrorist, you say back. Emphasis on the terrorist part, Solix mutters. Suck it up, sailor. Report to me if you have any problems, otherwise I'll speak to you at 0600. Polypa laughs. Laika out, you say. Ryson out, Polypa replies and cuts the channel of communication. I am also team no high explosive manufacturer in our shuttle, just for the record, Solix adds. My genius is stifled here, you protest. Better than it being blown up, Solix retorts, and yeah, that answer was quick enough and smart enough to make you break and laugh, so he wins that one. So, since we're staying here overnight, we should probably grab dinner from the stock down there, and I figure that I could answer a question that you didn't think to ask yet, you say as you get to your feet. I'll bite. What's the question? Solix asks curiously. You gotta buy me dinner before I'll put out, and by buy, I mean come down to the storeroom with me and pick some out, and by put out, I mean answer your burning questions. You remind him and slide down the ladder. Solix, of course, bypasses the ladder and just floats down after you. I'd figured that Jade didn't just ply you with ship-issued food to get you to put out, he remarks as you grab one of the boxes of rations. Yeah. You laugh a little weakly, and then realize that your knife is still on your suit. You shuffle over to where your suit and Solix's are both hanging up and snag your knife off of it, unfolding it as you go. So, I don't know if Polypa went over rations with you when she did your cold weather basic training, you say as you drag your knife over the tape holding it shut. She said that'd be your problem, he says simply. That it is. Well, okay, so rations usually aren't great. They have to meet that metric of being enough for us given what we're doing, but also not so heavy that we can't carry them with everything else. On top of that, anything we get has to be suitable to be sent through a shuttle launch, nothing that'll go weird with vibrations, and nothing that could catch fire or leak and cause a problem, any of that. So, those are all very big concerns. Taste is a little below that. Most of them are alright though, and fun fact, my sister helped design some of the desserts that come in some of these, since she's got a knack for baking, and a medical degree, you explain, and rifle through the box. Solix leans over to have a look as well, pulling one sealed plastic meal pouch out after another and reading what's on each of them. Whatever you do, don't eat the chicken parmesan. I don't care if they say they've redesigned it, I don't trust like that. You warn him. How about South Alternian honk beast curry? You ask. Solid choice. Come on, I'll show you how to cook, you say, picking your own spaghetti meal out. You hold the bag between your teeth and climb the ladder back up to the main area. You go to both your bag and Solix's and pull out the meal equipment that you packed in both. The tray is pretty neat. It goes from a totally flat sheet of metal that's useful for a bunch of other stuff to a food tray with all the right dents with just a teeny electric charge in one part of it. You sit down on the floor with Solix and start unpacking things. So, you're not allowed to take anything that start a fire onto the shuttle because of the whole shuttles on fire being bad thing. You're also not allowed to send that stuff beforehand on the things we shoot at the planet for the same reason, but our stuff needs rehydrating with hot water and we need a way to heat water, you explain. Makes sense. I've got water already, Solix says, floating the large bottle over. I was just going to ask you to grab that. Now watch this, you tell him. You show him the heating element in the meal kits, two totally inert parts that you have to assemble that produce a shocking amount of heat. There's no way that each part individually will do anything, and the two parts are kept in separate sealed parts of the meal pack in completely watertight sections, but combine A and B and you get enough heat to boil water. You set all of your food out and talk Solix through it as he opens his Interstellar Box branded frozen whipped caramel mocha. You pour water in both of yours and get him to shake them up until they are genuinely about as good as the kind you'd get in any of the real locations on the ship. Admittedly, your ship only has the one. Human ships tend to go for them more, whereas the Altuan is a bit more artisanal with its coffee. You pour water in your meals, stir them, and let them sit and cook with the heat. The two of you nibble on your assorted snacks and end up pooling them. The winter packs tend to be the nicest in your opinion. They try to bulk up the calories that you burn keeping warm, which basically means they put more sugar and fat in things, which tends to make it just better to eat in general. Apart from the chicken parm. Never again. With yours, they say put in more water than I did, but I think that makes it soupy and nasty, but have a little and tell me if you want more water in there. You advise Solix as you pour your meal out into the appropriate dent in the tray. It doesn't look fantastic, but it still tastes pretty alright to you, and that's fine by you. Solix has a bite of his right from the bag and deems it good enough to pour out and eat properly without any modifications. His doesn't look any prettier than yours, but Solix isn't putting up any protest at eating it. It's better than it looks, right? You ask. Surprisingly, yeah. The coffee especially, he agrees. Nice, you say cheerfully and clink your coffee cup to his. What's this question that I didn't think to ask then? Solix asks as he takes another spoonful of his hawk-beef curry. The question is, if you're not allowed to tell people who don't know about all of this, how do you know who you can tell and who you can't? Because it's not even all sailors that know about this. You saw people during that whole thing. Jade doesn't know. You tell him. How can you... Never mind. How do you know who knows and who doesn't? Do you just have to memorize everyone? Solix asks, opting to not voice whatever the first part of that was. I'll show you, you say, and reach for the neck of your suit. Solix's eyes go wide as you unseam your undersuit down your chest, and you know why. Across your chest, up your sternum, is a tattoo in ink that's normally invisible. Marsti fudged the truth and said it was UV ink, which it's not. It's EV ink. Extra visual, that is. Once you've seen the things you've seen, you become aware of it all the time, meaning you can see things that you couldn't before. It's possible to make tattoo ink that has the same properties. Don't ask how that's made exactly, I just know it's a pain in the ass to get. It glows like this when you've seen beyond normal stuff. You explain as you pull one arm free of your suit and lean forward to show him your bare hand. The tattoo on your hand and on your chest are basically the same thing, just scaled and placed differently. Up your chest, there's a giant set of scales, light and dark weighed equally with the trays to measure, aligned like they're hanging off your inked collarbone. That's the one thing you're salty about when it comes to being human. When you tattooed Gamzee's chest, you don't have to work around nipples. Although, then again, when you get tattoos, you don't have to detour around grub scars, so you win some, you lose some. The scales on your hand are set on the back, stretching between your thumb and forefinger, a smaller replica of your chest. I've got it on both hands. That way, when people who know about all this see me and don't already know who I am, they know that I've seen, and because of the scales, they know I'm a balancer. It's only us who get the scales. We're pretty firm on that, but other people get other things. Nepeta has Purby stripes up the sides of her hands. You explain. That's why you're into tattoos, Solix says in realization. It's a reason. Sam was kind of a mentor to me. Same with Gamzee, and he was the tattoo guy for his generation of sailors. That's why, after he recovered but before he died, he just went into doing regular tattoos for anyone, but he'd still do extra when it was any of us. You say, and shift your shoulders so Solix can see Laika properly. Your namesake is tattooed in regular ink, so anyone can see her, and you're proud to have her on your skin. Just as art on the black ink part, she's lovely, but when people can really see her, she's so much better. Laika's fur was white and dark brown, a shade achieved by blending your skin tone with a shaded black, but the pure white of her fur and all the stars beyond her are alive with the glow of the EV ink. Solix makes a noise of wonder, leaning in to look at her better. He doesn't touch, but for a moment he looks like he's going to. Everyone has these, then? Solix asks you, getting to the point you wanted to make. Well, not big stuff like this, but on your hands, yeah. Just so you don't say the wrong thing to the wrong person. You explain. Solix seems to think about that for a moment. He takes your hand gently so he can look at the tattoo there, and you're pretty sure you know what he's going to ask next. This is kind of a mandatory thing, then? He asks. It's more of a very heavily advised thing. People won't talk to you about any of this without it, and look, I can do it for you, and I can be really fast, and my ones heal really well. It doesn't even hurt all that bad at all. Way better than it used to be way back when. The techs come forward loads. You assure him. Solix's thumb claw moves over the scales on your hand, gently scratching over the skin and nudging at it curiously. He could be trying to work out how deep the ink goes. It can't be scales, then. Any other restrictions? He asks. Nothing I'd have to warn you about. I generally don't tattoo the kind of people where I'd have to say, hey, don't ask me to ink a slur into your skin, thanks, and I'm pretty sure you're good there. What did you have in mind? You ask him. It's a dumb idea, Solix starts to say. I love dumb tattoos. Puns, fun little cartoons, all that stuff. I love it. Lay it on me, you say encouragingly. Can you do a battery symbol? Solix asks. Your eyes widen. The whole history with psionics powering spaceships as effectively batteries is long and awful. If someone were to call Solix that, to call him a battery, then Carcat would be getting involved professionally. You're not a psionic or even a troll, so you're not sure. On my middle fingers, Solix adds. Oh! Fuck the idea of being a battery. You like that. Clever. Okay. You wouldn't do this for someone who wasn't a psionic, and it's not a tattoo visible to that many people, so yeah, you'll do it. Right here? You ask, catching his hand and touching the part of his middle finger between his knuckles and the first joint of his finger. Yeah, on both sides so it's even, he says with a wicked grin. I can do that. Keep eating and I'll get everything ready. It's better if you've eaten, you advise him. To be sure, you sketch him out a little preview of what you're going to do, and when you show him, he seems pretty thrilled by it. It's funny, you don't usually have much of a problem convincing people to get tattooed after they see all of this. Maybe it's an easy sell after telling them what happens to people after they die and proving that you have inhuman powers over that force. You snap your gloves on and raise one knee so it's about level with your chest. You set Solix's hand on your knee and wipe it down so it's all sanitary. Then you grab your small tattoo gun and open the EV ink. Ready? You check. Solix nods, his mouth full with one of Jane's designed cookie bars that warm up on the chemical heater to be gooey and awesome inside. You're not going to demand speech from him when he's enjoying that. You have a heart. You start to tattoo Solix, prepared for how he might jump, but surprisingly he doesn't. He breathes in a little sharply, but settles into the sensation quickly as you carefully ink in the battery design on his finger. The tattoo is small, so it doesn't take all that long until you're done, wiping it down and sealing it with a dermal barrier so it'll heal at an accelerated pace. Then you just have to switch hands and repeat the process. I didn't know tattoos felt like this, Solix says thoughtfully as you're part way through the outline on his other middle finger. Oh? You ask. It hurts, obviously. Probably more because it's close to a bone, right? He asks. Yeah, bones hurt. On the upside, it's a small tattoo, and I'm not going over the same area all that much. There's no detailed shading or anything, so it's not got time to get really raw. On the downside, it's right over your finger bones, which hurt. Like I said before, my sternum hurts something fierce. Somewhere fleshier like my thigh or my shoulder were easier. You agree? Right, so it hurts, but it feels kind of nice? I don't mean in the kinky pleasure pain way. I mean it's almost hypnotic and soothing. Solix explains. I know exactly what you mean. People respond in all kinds of ways, though. It's cool. You tell him as you wipe that finger clean and seal it up. Solix takes his hands back and looks them over with a feral kind of glee. Something tells you that he'll probably be asking you to put something else on his skin before too long. You wonder what he'll go for and where. You could do something nice on his arm, maybe, although he might want to be symmetrical, which would present a fun mirroring your own art challenge for you. When you're done packing your little kit away, you look up at Solix to see that his smile has faded a little into something bittersweet. Solix? You ask, making him look up from his hands. Mituna would have thought that these look great, he says as he looks at them again. I bet. You agree. Solix frowns, and after several seconds of silence, he meets your eyes again. You said that the void has people in it. Dead people. Solix begins. Ah. When we were flying and I could hear Aradia singing, I saw him. Not just in a flash, but I was him for a bit. I didn't imagine it. I know what I saw. He insists. You sigh and click your tattoo case open and shut a few times just to have something to do with your hands while you try to phrase this right. It's not all that unusual for people to experience something like that the first time they wake up and see this stuff, but it happens more with people who have lost someone. I don't know what you saw exactly, but it was probably something close to when he died. You can end up picking up those memories a little. You explain. He didn't feel like he was about to die, and he didn't feel ghostly at all, Solix tells you firmly. I don't really know what to tell you. Like I said, it's different for me. I got into this stuff young, and a lot of people describe things visually, and that's not really the sense I relate to all this with, so I'm not the best person to compare things to. I'd suggest that if you wanted to compare seeing memories and ghostly things through the whole void way of doing things versus death-based psionics, you'd be better off asking Aradia. You advise him. I guess. It just felt like he was still alive is all, Solix says with a frown. Now that's got to be a shitty feeling. His own brother, and yes, you know Mituna is technically his ancestor, but you'll call it what he is, which is his brother. He's off out there alive somewhere, and Solix can't do anything about it. The idea of that is hellish. There's not much you can do about it. Even if Solix seeing him and having an experience wasn't basically confirmation that the guy is dead, you all know what his fate was going to be. Your eyes linger on the glowing symbols on Solix's fingers. That's the thing about batteries. They're disposable. It's gotta be shitty, and there's nothing you can do about it.